Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to this rather lovely afternoon in the Midlands. Just out on the Moto Guzzi, just to test the drift camera on my Schubert full face helmet. This is the second time I've tried it today. First time out, we had a little bit of a problem with the camera. I suspect that the remote hadn't paired up and it just didn't turn itself on. Well, hopefully we're not going to have that problem now. It all seems to be running nicely. We're just going to have a quick whiz round, see how this is actually going. So you can see the camera. Yeah, the red light's flashing. That's all pretty good. Right. Excellent stuff. Right, just for interest, for those interested in the camera setting, it's a drift ghost test. We have it set at 1080p, 50 frames per second, high bit rate. Mic set is on minimum. That's the one out of 3. And we'll see how this all works. Just going to have a little putter into town. I need to get a statement from the bank. Just get it printed out on my card. And we'll have a little bit of a ride round. I'd say it's a shame that the last one didn't come out because it was quite nice. I went off around Castle Donington and Aston and Weston, and that's quite a nice ride. Hello. Oh, all a bit exciting. Wonder what that's all about. Yeah, it's definitely feeling a little bit colder now. Temperature's probably only about 13 degrees because I'm just wearing my light fabric jacket and without a liner at the moment, and you can just feel the cold a little bit. Hopefully it'll warm up as we get going. Typical sort of May weather. We've had this time last week, the temperature was nearly 30 degrees and it was absolutely frying. And then we had massive downpours, heavy rain, and then the same again on Monday and Tuesday. Sorry, on the Monday it was boiling up. Then Tuesday, absolutely poured it down and was freezing again. But as I say, that's the joys of the British climate. New Triumph place. Been in there, got some nice stuff. They haven't really got everything fully set up though. And the bike shop just there. They're very good for kit. Particularly, you know, not too expensive stuff. I bought some actually really good Richard gloves off them, which I've still got. Only about 40 quid, not bad. Did me about 4 or 5 seasons. In fact, that's where this jacket came from about, over 10 years ago. I bought it as a cheapie just to sort of tide me over, and I'm still running it. So there we are. You don't actually have to pay a fortune to get yourself stuff that will last. Alright. Well, it's nice to be out on the Guzzi again. I haven't really put much mileage on it, what with the weather. This last week, and also I've had a little bit of those of you who have seen some of my other videos will notice that I've had a bit of problem with my left wrist, and working which I strained all the tendons on riding my Triumph Sprint. The net result of which was I just could not work a manual clutch. But So essentially I haven't really been able to ride this bike much for the last 9 months. I think it's slowly getting better. I wouldn't say that it's perfect, because it's not, but they're definitely better. That and the fact I also get arthritis in my thumbs and my fingers, and wrists in general doesn't help. Right, just going to dive into the bank here, and we'll get that little mini statement. See how solvent or otherwise we are. As I think we're in the queue for this one. Never mind. Right. I'll speak to you guys in a bit. Right. There we go. Nice snow with still solvent. Just having to keep a check on my bank balance, because we've got quite a lot. I've got a fairly large building project going on at the moment. I'm having the drive, all the front area and the drive all rebuilt, as well as the front doorsteps and the lead up to the garage, and that's a fairly expensive bit of work going on. And I just had to check that all the cash was there in place, ready to pay for it. Hopefully, the majority of it might be, for me, even be finished by the end of the week, and I can actually get the bikes in and out without using planks. Never know your luck. Right, well, let's just go for a little bit of a ride round and just see how everything's working. That's fine, good. Just going through Long Eaton now. One thing about these Guzzi V twins, they're beautifully flexible. Yeah, look at it, it's just idling 1500 RPM with that, and you just roll on, just a slight bit of throttle and it just rolls on. Right, where should we go? Oh. We'll just keep going this way. I keep on having to remember I've got 6 speeds in the gearbox. I got so used to riding the FJ, which only has 5. Not that it really needs 6, but no, I say, going back to what I was saying about riding a manual clutch, I'm hoping my wrist has healed up enough that I'll be able to handle the clutch on the new 2016 FJR, which is quite a bit lighter than its predecessors. Because at the moment the AS variant, which has the automatic clutch, is really nice, but it would be nice to have the precision control you do get with a manual. That said, the new AS system on the is a considerably better bet than the one than the first generation, which is the one I've got, which is fine. It can be set up and it works very nicely, but you'll get so much better results and better control with the fly-by-wire throttle and just a much more powerful processing unit. You know, to give you a comparison, you know, when the first AS system came out, it was in 206, and if you think what mobile phones were like then, compared with the current bike's processor unit, which came out in 2013, and the ES version, which came out in 2014. So you think about how phones have improved over that time period, and it just shows you just how much extra capability you have in the ECU. So it'd be interesting to ride one anyway, but it would be nice to have a manual again. And the 6-speed transmission would be really nice, because it's not having a slightly higher top gear, yeah, that's fine, but you also get a different spacing of the gears. And I think actually, even in the AS version, it would work considerably better, because first being just that little bit taller would help. Because usually the first thing you do with mine is you put it into second. So the first gear isn't really that useful. There we go, we'll go up towards Risley. But anyway, I'll have I went up to Clay Cross a few weeks back, and I was speaking to the guy there, and they can get a demonstrator in, but you have to give them about 2 weeks' notice. At the moment, I just don't have the money. So is it worth it? Maybe, maybe not. Well, maybe actually, if it's not going to cost me anything. But the only doubt with that is, once you've had a go, and if you do find that it's really, really nice, you'll start to try and find ways to find the money. And I'd want the ES variant, the electronic suspension. So you'd be looking at 14,500 quid. A lot of money, awful lot of money for a motorcycle. That said, you know, most of if you're looking at an AS, if you found that even with the new clutch it was just too much, you can get, so there's some 2014, 2015 ASs, that's the auto clutch variation with the 5-speed transmission, going for, I think the cheapest I've seen is something like 12,500 quid. Now that's not bad. I mean, the question you've got to ask yourself is an extra speed in the gearbox really worth an extra 2,500 quid? Well, I'll leave you to think that one, work that one out. But there we are, that's another option. Because it would be nice, the electronic suspension would be nice, and also the motor is a bit smoother on the later variants of the FJR. Basically because they use nickel steel liners as opposed to steel. The tolerances will be tighter, they do run smoother. And of course you've got the fly-by-wire throttle, and you got cruise control, and you get all the electronic, some of the nice electronics. The cruise control though would be really useful, because again, problem is arthritis in the wrists, and I find holding the throttle open for half an hour or so at a constant position on the motorway, it just starts to create problems. How nice just to be able to set the speed, take your hand off, flick the wrist, just get the circulation back. Yes, throttle locks will work well, and they do. Oh, come on, dude. Thank you. But compared with a proper electronic system, it's pretty Stone Age technology. Well, we're up on the Risley Hills at the moment. The old girl's going nicely. Be interesting to see with how well you can hear this. that was quite fun. Ah, here we are, going into Borough Wash. What was that, 30? 30? Well, there we go, 100. They're always a bit enthusiastic. No, but this Guzzi, I've had this particular one since new. I bought it back in August 2002. I'd ridden a couple of V11 before. Really, I was looking for a replacement for that had a feel of a bike very similar to my old Velocet Clubman, but preferably a little bit more reliable. And because back when I was in my late teens, early 20s, I was a great British bike fan, and this was back in the mid 80s. And at that time, you could actually pick up British bikes quite cheaply, relatively speaking. Yes, if you wanted a Gold Star, you'd have to pay. And Vincent's have always been in the land of high price tags, even back then. But you could pick up a good Bonnie or a Velo for a couple of grand, no problems. And if you wanted something a little bit more humble, then you know, sub £1,000, no problem, no problems. I mean, my Venom Clubman cost me £1,500, and it needed a little bit of work, but not a huge amount. That was a great little bike. To buy something similar today would cost well in excess of 10,000. In fact, I've seen some of them going for fairly optimistic around 15,000. Now that's just silly money. I mean, I know they're not making any more of them, etc., etc. But you know, whoa, that really is a bit ridiculous. But anyway. So I thought, well, what's sort of fairly similar? And I've always had a bit of a soft spot for Guzzis. And I thought, well, that'd be nice. So I had to go on a V11, a straight V11 without the fairing, and that was great. And then I came back to Twiggers, which is the Guzzi dealer in Loughborough, which is just to the south of us. And they happened to have this in stock. And it was sitting in the front, the showroom. The sun was coming in and it just hit the red paint, and this thing just looked lovely. And I decided then and there I'd have to pay, I was going to have it. And I've held it, hung on to it ever since. So that's now, how long now? 14 years? Well, it'll be 14 years in August. Hasn't done much many miles. It's only got 12,000 miles on the clock. Mostly because I've always had a few bikes in the garage at any one time, so my mileage tends to get split. And this one really I use mostly for, you know, nice Sundays or an evening ride when I've got the time. Get rid of that. There we go. That's better. A small fly in the visor. So the mileage just doesn't build up on it. But it really, and it doesn't require an awful lot of maintenance either. I mean, I change the oil every year, oil and filter. Although this winter I didn't bother, because last winter I did everything. And literally, even now, I've probably only put 500 miles since changing the oil. Well, it's no point in doing it. You just be throwing it away. Throwing away perfectly good lubricant. But this winter, of course, everything will be out, and that'll be engine oil, filter, gearbox oil, final drive oil. Change that out as well. One thing I do need to do is I need to flush the brake fluid, because that's now at 3 years old. It should have been done this winter, but I ran out of time, really. I mean, or shall we say, whenever I had a bit of time in the workshop, something else needed it. I mean, no big problems really. It doesn't have an ABS system to cause it to corrode or anything, but it should be done every 2 years. In fact, it might get done in the next day or so. The other thing that I would like to do at some point is take the steering head apart and re-grease the bearings, just to make sure they're fine. They feel great. Everything moves beautifully, but it would be a good idea at 12,000 miles. The only trouble I've had is I haven't been able to find a torque value to redo the bearings up to. The nearest thing I can get is in the not particularly specific workshop manual, which says tighten up sufficiently to remove free play, which is not a particularly precise set of instructions. Unlike the FJR, which has a nice definite set of sport torque specs. So that's going to be a bit of a suck and see job. Again, I think I'll probably wait till the winter, because it's all working fine. This bike has a fairly easy life, and the bearings themselves are sheltered. I don't know whether you can see down there, there's a fairing at the bottom of the fork yokes. That's just part of the wind deflection system to stop turbulence inside the fairing, but it also shields the headrace bearing very nicely. So there's no reason to believe that they'd be getting blasted with grit or anything else. It certainly, you know, goes very smoothly. The engine itself, of course, is quite smooth. I mean, here we are at about 3,500 RPM. And yeah, there's a little bit of vibration through the bars, but it's not bad. Quite comfy, really. The riding position is not bad at all. It's a typical sort of sports stance, not extreme, but it's not particularly great around town. It's nice when you just get out, sort of cruising along 65, 75 mile an hour in that bracket, and just sufficient wind to take the weight off your wrists. But it's a very nice and very unique little bike. There aren't too many around here. In fact, as far as I know, this is the only Le Mans version around. There's one or two V11s, but as far as I know, this is the only Le Mans variant that I've seen around here. Because it did occur to me that if my wrist didn't really heal up, or my clutch hand didn't heal up, I might end up having to sell this, and I have no idea really what it's worth. I've seen prices go from 2 and a bit grand for a fairly tatty one to 5 grand for a Minter, but because the market's so small, it really does depend on the day on who's bidding. But I don't want to sell it anyway, not unless I have to. It's just one of these bikes. Everybody, you know, like a two-stroke. Everybody should have a Guzzi in the garage, and it's so simple to work on. You know, no maintenance bills. You know, doing the simple stuff, doing the valves, oh, piece of cake. So nice compared with the modern multi. So lacking in trauma. You know. Big multis are fine in terms of measuring them, usually, assuming you can get at things, but so many of them, if the clearances have shifted and you have to do anything, you've got to lift the cams, and of course that means breaking the timing chains, and the risk of something just slipping or getting a tooth out of place, and oh god, and then everything, you know, you stand a good chance of wrecking everything. I've never quite understood why, particularly on engines for non-high performance sports bikes, they don't go to hydraulic valve adjustment. I mean, like my FJR, be a classic case. I mean, it's already pretty good with a valve adjustment period of 24,000, but you know, it only revs to 9 grand, so why not go to hydraulic lifters? And then you'd never ever have to worry about it. And then of course you could also go a little bit further and say, well, why not go to gear driven cams like the old VFR? And then say that'd be brilliant. Hydraulic lifters, gear driven cams. All you have to do is change the valve, change the spark plugs. That would be so nice, wouldn't it? I always thought when I had my VFI, hydraulic lifters would be brilliant, because you just would never have to get in there to work on them. It really would be, you know, sealed for life job. Because if anybody's ever worked on Honda V4s, will tell you there's not a lot of room to swing a spanner. Sun's coming out now. Now you can actually feel there's warmth in the sun. You can just feel it through my jacket. It's still quite cool, but how's that camera behaving? Yeah, appears to still be recording. Good. That's interesting. Oh, I think my camera just it just beeped at me. I thought, oh god, it's shut down again, but it hasn't. What it does is when the file sizes get to a certain level, it just starts up a new file. So obviously we've hit that. Didn't think I'd been up quite that long, mind you, of course. In the high resolution formats, your file will you'll hit your file size pretty quickly. Busy day at the Harrington. Sunday lunch is always a popular thing there. Put the visor up. Yeah, I actually went for a meal at the Nag's Head about 2 weeks ago with some friends. That was alright. Nothing mega to ride home about, but it was, you know, certainly decent enough for the money. Another thing, the old Guzzi gearbox. Once they settle down, they shift beautifully. They're quite long travel shift. It's quite a long travel shift, but it's very smooth, very nice. Oddly enough, when I changed the gear oil last, there was a definite improvement in the quality, and oh, hello, fire brigade. Oh, I wonder what's going on there. Yeah, and as I say, there was definitely improvement in the quality of the shift. I think it was probably to do with the oil type of oil that we used. Let's take a little wander around to see if there's anything going on. I don't think so. Anyway, because you were also previously the final drive, that's the bevel drive unit, was expected to use a standard sort of 80-90 gear oil with a molybdenum sulfide additive. Well, with this latest set of gear oil that I bought, you didn't need to put the additive in. It was you know, good to go. And of course that's in the gearbox, and I'm sure that has definitely improved the shift. I don't know, anybody out there with a similar experience? But it was I would have loved to have tried this in my old Harley Super Glide, because that had a that gearbox was interesting, to put it mildly. No, nothing. But anyway, never mind. Anyway, guys, we'll try and get this on the computer. Hopefully it will have actually worked, and we'll put it up on YouTube and see what you guys think of it. Okay, dudes, speak to you later. Bye. Well, couldn't resist giving you guys a look at the old girl. She's a handsome beast, isn't she? Sitting in the sun here. Alright. Right, let's get this sorted out. See you then. Bye.